I think the first time we're doing a two-person workshop.
Seems a bit OCD, but it's worth doing.
I mean, Hardscape is secured.
I used to be obsessed with doing 70–80%, but now I do 50 and I find that's fine. Hi all, nice to see you all here. My name is Mark, Geordie Scaper on social media, particularly YouTube and Instagram. The aim of my channel is to help new people getting into the hobby, anyone new, or just to help them progress in aquascaping and planted aquariums, because it's not as hard as what people think. So it's my job to try and help you guys through your aquascaping journey. And MJ,
you want to introduce me?
This is Mark, MJ Aquascaping, and he's going to tell you all about himself.
Yeah, so I'm Mark as well. 35 years from the Netherlands. Kind of like Mark, I've also been keeping fish pretty much my entire life. So this is the first time we're doing a two-person workshop.
Yep. Substrate first, yeah. So what we mean by substrate is just your layer, whether it's decorative sand. We use a nutrient-rich base layer to help root growth. This you can also build height with, so it's a biomedia, so this will harbour beneficial bacteria, just as this is what goes in your filters normally. So it'll do the same job under the substrate as what we do in a filter, harbouring beneficial bacteria, give you better water flow under that substrate, but also build height. So that's the media we'll be using and placing that first. So next up, after that, we use flourish tabs. Sometimes you can crush them up into like a powder and just sprinkle that on. Again, it's just extra nutrients for those plant roots. But today we'll just put the tabs actually on the base. And then finally, the soil, so aquarium soil. We always tend to use aquarium soil. We know it's made for aquariums, it's safer for the livestock, and it breaks down slow over time. So you're not going to put it in, it's going to be mush later. I mean, some tanks can run for 2 years with the same substrate base, just fine, topping it up and refreshing it, or adding more root tabs, that sort of thing. So that's what we're doing with the substrate. This one is going to be a full soil substrate, so we're not be using any decorative sand in this one. So we're going to be using what everyone loves. We're going to create a carpet of plants using different grass plants. We've kind of like decided which type of composition we'll go for. You've heard of like compositions, so you've got concave, like a dual island scape, or you've got an island style, which you see in the right hand corner there. So they're the three basic ones you tend to go with. So today we're going to create a triangular from the right going to the left. So this is just like we're saying, like a pumice stone. You can use like crushed lava stone, that kind of thing. Really good for keeping your beneficial bacteria in.
In my opinion, this is not necessary. Thing is though, like this is, like at Horizon Aquatics, like most of the display tanks here will stay for a year plus. Year and a half, sometimes even 2 years. If you only use aqua soil, like over time it will kind of compact, and then because it compacts, you get less oxygenation in the substrate. So by adding a layer of the pumice stone, kind of just make sure that even on the long term you have.
So longer term, your plants are going to benefit from it. But like I say, it's not essential. You don't have to have that. So you can just work with just the aquarium soil.
Okay, I'm going to apply a trick that I learned recently from Luis Navarro, who is kind of like the main aquascaper for Seachem. So in the substrate we want to have a lot of beneficial bacteria, and they will just develop over time. But one way that we can kind of kickstart it is with just bottled beneficial bacteria. So normally you would just add this to the water column just to kickstart the cycle. But he also poured a little bit onto the pumice and then caps it with, so you already have some bacteria in the substrate from the very start. I thought it was an interesting trick. So
I say that's liquid, billions of beneficial bacteria. That's just going to benefit your aquarium in the long run. The water column, the substrate base.
Sorry, MJ, what product is that?
This is Seachem Stability. So just loads of beneficial bacteria. It kind of seems silly to, okay, we're going to add bacteria to the substrate, but I think it's very underrated to, like if you have a healthy Substrate is just going to make a planted tank so much more stable.
So now I'm just going to add, like, normally I would crush these into a powder and I would just sprinkle it over the base. But again, this isn't essential. This is just for long term, because this will try and keep this tank going as long as possible. So, well, it depends how good it is. Like, might get stripped tomorrow. But these are just full of like your trace elements, things that plant roots love. So just aim these. These are also good for, because a lot of people tend to have just a gravel only base, which you can add those to those, but I always recommend having a base that is suitable for plants, like the soil we've been talking about. It's okay short term to keep putting these in every couple of months in a gravel base with certain plants, but the plant's not going to flourish. Yeah, it'll live, but it'll not flourish. I'm always trying to aim to give the plants the best possible nutrient base as we can, especially for heavy root feeders, which we'll talk about later when we talk about the plants.
I've got a question for Geordie Scaper.
Yeah.
Do you find there's a better version of those, or do you find the clay-based? So there's clay-based and then there's like the plastic dissolvable ones as well?
You're talking about root tabs?
Root tabs.
Do you two find that one's better than the other or not?
I think add any, like if you've got the ones in the plastic containers, if you're doing it for this sort of thing, you would just like break that up and sprinkle what's inside the plastic capsule, because these come in like a thick root tab, and these don't float. Some of those float if they get, you've mentioned that before.
Yeah.
If they get some oxygen in them, they actually float, and they're quite hard to put in, especially when the tank's full, if you try to place them for a bit extra nutrition boost. So these are easy to place and stay put. So, but I wouldn't think, I would use any, to be honest. I think they're all good, but yeah.
The only thing with the ones that you mentioned, the ones in the capsule, the ingredients, they don't dissolve. So over time, if you were to reuse your substrate, you have those little yellow thingies that...
Yeah.
And these, they're black. So they're black, they fully dissolve.
Break
so
down into the soil.
it's just those little things, you know? When it comes to Aquasol, there's a lot of different brands out there. Basically, it's all the same product. It's made from the same material. Sometimes the source where they get it from is a little bit different. Some of them will have a higher nutrient content compared to others.
You find most come from Japan.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's not getting into too much detail. It's just a good quality soil made for aquarium plants in a nutshell. And it doesn't break down or make all the water murky. That's the worst thing. You buy inexpensive soils that aren't really made for aquariums. You just have trouble with cloudy aquariums constantly. So you won't get that with this sort of stuff. So we'll just carry on creating that slope. So what we aim for at the front is around about 3 to 4 centimeters. And that's a good depth for most carpeting plants to allow for some room for root growth. So you don't want it too shallow. So 3 or 4 centimeters. I used to be a right saddle and measure, still do. I've got a bit of an obsession with straight lines as well, like with the substrate, but it does look really neat once it's done. If you keep everything nice and straight rather than all wavy, it's just got a nice finish to it. You focus more on actual aquascape rather than the substrate line. So nice and neat lines. Seems a bit OCD, but it's worth doing. Yeah, so that's what's soiling for now. We've got more soil we can add and get that nice straight line and build it up more if we have to. So we'll start working with the hardscape. So we're using wood and stone for this particular setup, continuing with that triangular shape.
Right, so for the hardscape, yesterday we basically went around the gallery, see like, okay, what get your work together, Mark.
What hasn't been used?
What hasn't been used in the gallery yet. So, and also look at the tanks that the tank's gonna be here in this corner. So that tank over there has corba wood and Sirius stone. This one has hornwood and those round pebbles. So we want to make sure we use something different. And actually there's no layout here with this stuff. This is Talava wood. I don't use it very often, do you?
I've used it loads. I quite like it because it's cheap.
It is,
I'm cheap. But it is one of the most, probably the more inexpensive of the woods, because as you know, if you've started aquascaping, hardscape can get quite expensive. But just remember, you've got it for life. So that's what I was saying. If you're buying stone, just keep collecting it and you'll have a good collection of hardscape eventually. So yeah, this is Talawa wood. It does darken like most woods underwater. I find it really easy to work with, to get a nice, good looking composition straight away. And I've had no problems with it. It does get a little bit brittle on the ends and it might snap off, but again, it's no big deal. Most woods will break down. So this is probably one that will break down quicker than most, but you'll still get a few out of an aquarium using this wood. But yeah, I've used it loads and really like it.
I've heard a few stories from people that the Talawa wood can actually release some ammonia in the beginning. So if you're using this, always be careful. Make sure you just cycle it for a couple of weeks before you add any livestock.
Most times anyways, you recommend, which we'll get into more detail later, heavy water changes for the first couple of weeks. So that's going to like sort your ammonia levels and that out anyway. So if you're getting tannins like leaching into your water, so your water's a bit yellowy brown, you don't want that. The ammonia levels are high. With those regular water changes for this first couple of weeks, that's going to help dilute that and sort that. So I wouldn't worry too much with that kind of thing.
Right, so that's the Talawa wood. For the rocks, we're using petrified wood stone. Again, check around the gallery. There's no layout with this type of rock. I think you guys just only recently got it. Yeah, so cool. Good thing about this stuff is it doesn't affect the water parameters. If you look at serious stone, for example, it will raise your the hardness of the water, so that can affect plant growth. This is completely inert, I guess, and it doesn't do anything, which is a bonus. Okay, so we start on composition.
Yeah, I'm just going to have we took a quick snip yesterday, so I'm just going to have a quick look. I'm not making phone calls.
So yeah, we're going for the triangular composition because we like it, but also because it kind of makes sense with the position of the aquarium. Like it's in this corner over here. So you can't really see the aquarium from this side. So it's totally fine if you're building it up high on this side. Also, this one is a triangular composition as well. If you guys can see that. This one is a triangular composition in the other direction. So
yeah, I thought it looked nice, the position in the gallery. Try and consider all them sort of things. Same as the position in your home. At home, where you're going to see it from, do you see three sides? Do you see it two-dimensional? So that's where triangular composition comes in. If it's in the corner of your room, you can see it from all angles. So that's where this one comes in really handy. But if it's just in an alcove, like I've got the aquarium at home, it's just 2D, so you just worry about the front view, not the sides, because they're hidden anyways. So it's really handy for that.
So especially with rocks, I always just like to see like which side is the most, has the most texture or like looks the best. See with this one, like you have this white, this doesn't look very nice, so we just don't use that side. So the nicest side should always face forward.
Another point as well, placing stones where we can get some good securing points so we can attach it, which you'll see later we use tissue paper and glue, a certain type of glue, and that secures this, because the last thing you want is your wood floating, or while you're doing maintenance, knocking it. I don't know if we've done this by accident, but something I purposely try to do. You see how the stones aimed into the corners? I always like trying aim stones of wood in the direction of the corners. It's just got a thing of drawing you into that aquascape. So I would just naturally do it, I think. But if you're thinking about it, it's a good idea. So nice and lined, and the wood direction there is going. So it was a happy accident, or just unconsciously done it.
That's also kind of why I placed the stone like this, just to kind of start the bottom part of the triangle, if you will. I quite like that we sort of accidentally made this little arch in the center.
There.
Yeah,
it's cool now.
It's a bit too central for if you want to create a sand path, for example. But if you could like create a sand path this way and like have it go underneath, but it's a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what you're saying. This is bang in the middle, but with grasses, mixed grasses, it's not such a big deal. But I would say if we decide to use a decorative sand in the front, I would definitely. But you could have it centre, but you can change the direction by using stones. So if you had sand, we use different size stones to direct the path which way you want to go, so you can take it left or right. So don't worry if something's banging in the middle, oh, you're worried, oh no. Just, yeah, change that direction with some. Usually smash up some stones and use the same material.
Right, so for gluing, we have the Horizon Aquascape gluing kit. This is the best one on the market right now. Yeah, so the main purpose of gluing the hardscape together is just to avoid the wood floating up, but also to make maintenance easier. You know, like if you want to clean the glass with a sponge, you accidentally bump into a piece of wood, it's not gonna tip over and ruin your beautiful hardscape.
But just because the gel type doesn't react as much, the gel type's more for attaching the plants to wood and stone. The liquid type is the one that reacts. So just bear that in mind.
Yeah, you can use the gel type for the hardscape as well, but it just takes a lot longer to set and to cure. And trying to do this fast. Also, when it comes to hardscape, like we're doing a demonstration now, so we're not gonna spend too much time on it. But if you're doing this at home, just take your time. Don't try to rush it. I always recommend especially for beginners, to separate it as well. Like I would never do the hardscape and the planting all in one day. Like once the hardscape is done, it's a lot easier to figure out, okay, this plant will look nice there, this plant will look nice there. It's harder to do that if the hardscape is not done yet, basically.
Also, sometimes you've had like time to sleep on it, and when you see it the next day, like not as like happy as I thought. So little tweaks, even some moving a bit wood slightly left, right, makes a mad difference.
Main hardscape is now pretty much done. We still have some small twigs left. You can always add more details if you want. So I was thinking if we should, or if it's good enough as it is. I feel like the branch on the left, or sorry, on the right is a little bit too straight, too boring. So we can, add a few more smaller twigs to make it look a little bit more interesting. I mean, hardscape is secured. It's not moving. I like it. We started planting. As I mentioned earlier, I would always recommend to do the hardscape and the planting separate, kind of just like we did now, but then do it on a different day. When I choose plants, it's actually something that I really enjoy doing, just trying to make the perfect plant list, So I always grab my my notes and I just make a list: foreground, midground, background, and also like epiphytes or on the hardscape. Like, okay, which plants would look nice in this hardscape? Which plants do I want to use? And I can actually spend quite a lot of time doing that. Just trying to come up with the perfect plant list for this layout. That's what we did yesterday as well. Like we spent a good hour seeing what they have in stock over here and what would suit the layout.
So what would suit the layout, and trying to pick certain plants that's not using the gallery, so to mix it up a bit. This is tissue culture. So these are lab-grown plants and got no pesticides, got no pest snails or anything, because in pots, you're pretty much guaranteed to get snails' eggs and get those pest snails everyone hates. I just got used to, to be honest. I used to bug us, to be honest, having pest snails, but I think after a while you just think it's part and parcel of having an aquarium. So tissue culture, you've got none of that. So if you're doing a tank with all tissue culture, you'll get no pest snails. You get lots of portions in a small pot, so we'll just divide these into portions. And as long as you've got a few leaves, and when you plant, if there's some leaves getting some light, they're going to grow. So what we're doing is like a mixed carpet, so we're just going to like put them in random, and you'll get the slight different heights of leaf colour, leaf shape, so it'll be a nice mixed, natural looking carpet, instead of like a lawn. Also, when you plant, leave a bit of space between the front. You don't want the plant squashed up against the front, just like a finger space when you're starting, just so it's not going to go press against the front.
Don't do this.
Yeah. You've spoilt me straight line. Oh, I'm not happy.
So for all the plant nerds out there that are just like me, I'll go through the plant list. So in the foreground we have dwarf hairgrass, the Eleugaris pusilla, mixed with the Liliopsis and the Halantium tellum green. Yeah, exactly. Then we also have a little bit of the Crypt albida brown, which is this one right here. Just add a bit more color to the foreground because it's mostly green plants. And you also added a few bits of the Hygrophila araguaia.
So there's little bits, you can hardly see it, but just dotted now and then at the base of the stones and the wood. It's just very small in vitro at the minute.
Same thing, just add a bit more color. Then in the midground we have Blixa.
So got a lot of Blixa there.
And this side, to start the you know, the triangular shape. And because I've planted quite a lot on this side, I feel like I also needed some on the other side. So just
bits, yeah.
over there, some more. Then we have some Sagittaria needle leaf. I mean, you're not going to see it right now because it's also grass, but it's a slightly taller grass, so it's just kind of formed the transition towards the background. On the wood we have the Trident Java Fern, Anubias mini coin, and the Bucephalandra Sordidula blue.
So the Bucephalandra is a dark leaf, the Anubias is the lighter green. So we'll put them in clumps together at the base.
Then in the background, starting on Mark's side, we have the Myriophyllum matacrossense.
So I'll go nice and bushy and this grow nice and high, so good height on this one.
Yeah. Then we've also mixed in some of the Cypress Hellfree, which is the tall grass.
It's actually tall grass plant.
And next to that we have the Limnophila hyperoidoides.
So that's a focal red pinkish colour. And that'll be a nice focal point.
Yeah, we'll pop up right over here.
It's a lovely plant. So this was...
Yeah, we wanted to keep this a bit of a more open space. We basically planted foreground and midground plants all the way to the back, just to make sure it's not...
So we'll get the thick grass-like plant around about 8-10 centimeters tall at the back there.
Yeah, we basically wanted to avoid having a wall of plants in the back. So that's why we've kind of left this space open just to break it up a little bit. And then there's one more stem plant on this part over here, which is the Proserpinaca palustris.
It's easy for him to say.
Yeah, which nobody can see, but it's a really nice plant, really beautiful. And I think that's it.
Yeah, so now we've got that height coming down, small gap. It'll still be a triangular composition with the wood and the plants. With that nice little bit dead space, you can see will give it a good sense of depth, rather than, as Mark was saying, the full wall. But that's it, isn't it?
I'm happy with it, so.
All done. Thank you very much. Here we go.